Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Living in the West, a series of programs where we look into providing ideas for Muslim minorities in the West, finding strategies and vision for them. I have with me Sheikh Haytham Al-Haddad from the Muslim Research and Development Foundation, an organisation in the UK, London, who tries or aims to provide solutions to the problems of the Muslim minorities who are living there. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, if I can just briefly recap. We spoke about, in the previous episodes, the aims or the importance of finding a vision for this group of Muslims living in the West. And we looked at how to go about believing in a vision. And then we said the actual vision was Tawheed in its holistic view, implementing Tawheed on a personal and community level. We spoke about the matrix. You did explain that there's a personal priorities and a community priorities. The community priorities, we said, of course, were to establish Tawheed, not to make a cut with this. Also, to make sure you can establish the 5 pillars of Islam. And then we looked into how the community must keep away from the major sins. What else are there, or what other priorities are there for the community as a whole, as Muslims living in the West?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In terms of preserving the Muslim identity on an individual level and on a communal level, we need to preserve, as we said, we need to preserve the Tawheed in its totalitarian form. Now, in order to preserve Tawheed in its holistic meaning, we need to preserve other aspects of Sharia, of Islam, of our identity. This is in terms of community level. So, for example, on a community level, the very first thing that we need to preserve and we need to actually achieve is an official recognition for Islam within the governmental bodies. Official recognition. We have mentioned this before, that we need to be officially recognized as a community within the government. But what does that imply? Now, see, we as Muslims living in the West, we have to admit that we are living in a different situation, unlike Muslim countries. So the immediate aims and objectives for us as a community are different from the immediate aims and objectives of Muslims living in Muslim countries.
That's right.
Although the highest aims and objectives are the same, of course. Now, the immediate aims for Muslims can be classified into 2 main aims. After realizing that the highest aim for us, highest immediate aim for us as Muslims in the West is to achieve official recognition for Islam in all spheres of life. Now, once we say the official recognition of Islam in all spheres of life, what does that mean? First of all, it means that me as a Muslim, or we as a community, when we deal with the government admits that we have special needs because we are Muslims, and the government already recognized us as an official body of the government. Not just as a minority that they have their own different culture. No, the government has to admit that we are different and we have different needs, and the government has to fulfill these needs for us. And the very basic thing that we need to mention here is the issue of, first of all, the Muslim personal law. And the second thing that need to be mentioned here is the educational system. In my view, these are the two main issues that need to be fulfilled, and it needs to be as a target for any Muslim community to achieve in any place. Now, in terms of what do we mean by that? What do we mean by Muslim personal law? Mm-hmm. Of course, personal law means how to marry, how to divorce, and how to deal with inheritance law and custody of children, mm-hmm. and some other minor things as well. But these are the major things. Now, in all the non-Muslim countries, in all European countries, is Sharia or Muslim personal law is not officially recognized as a law for a specific minority, for them to refer to officially. Mm-hmm. Unofficially, it might be there. There might be some avenues for Muslims to go to, but officially it is not recognized. What do we mean by official recognition? Mm-hmm. Means that the government admits that these are the Muslims, these are their needs, and in terms of Muslim personal law, within the judicial system, there is this body that deals with Christians, Jewish, etc., and there is this body that deals with Muslim needs in terms of personal law. And therefore, within their laws and within the personal law for that government, there are different acts and sections that deal with Muslims and deal with Muslim personal law. For example, in terms of marriage, we will find that if couples want to marry, then they have to go to the registrar office in order to record their marriage, etc. If the couples are Muslims and wish to register their marriage according to their faith, then they have to do these steps. Mm-hmm. So this is official recognition, an official recognition. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the divorce. If the couples are Muslims and they want to seek a divorce, and according to their faith, then they have to follow these steps. A big problem with regards to inheritance law and and also the issue of custody. Mm-hmm. However, let me leave the issue of inheritance law and custody in a side for a minute, okay? In a minute. But the point is that at least the recognition for the need is there in the official body, in the judicial system of that government. And as far as I know, this official recognition is not there in all the European countries. There is something that is called prenuptial agreement, mm-hmm. and there is something that is called arbitration. And some Muslims are referring to prenuptial agreements and arbitrations in order to solve their problems.
That's right.
Yes, this may solve some problems Muslims are facing in terms of personal law and maybe some other fields, but the official recognition for Muslims as Muslims, arbitration is something that can be used for all. And it is not catering only for Muslims. Same thing with the issue of prenuptial agreement. All non-Muslims or many non-Muslims are using it. It is not something specific for Muslims. However, it is very strange to know that some other minorities are recognized as minorities. For example, in the UK, the Sikh and Hindus are recognized, and they have given within the judicial body, within the law itself, some avenues in order to deal with their personal matters according to their faith. Same thing with the Jewish community. Now, I agree that with the Jewish community and other communities, they have not achieved what we are aiming to achieve because they are different. Our needs are different from their needs, and our needs are much more than their needs. So we are not putting them as a target. But what I mean is that the judicial body within the Western governments had an experience.
It's flexible to accept it because there's something already.
Or there is a level of flexibility in order to accommodate for some other needs. And here, this brings the discussion, the real discussion about Sharia and the role of Sharia and how can we bring about Sharia to be implemented in the Western context. I don't know whether we have time to discuss that, but this is something very important that we need to discuss. Now, what is the link between this and Tawheed and preserving our Tawheed? As again, let me remind the brothers and sisters of what we have said, that this will preserve our Tawheed. This will preserve our 5 pillars. This will preserve the core of our identity. That's why we need to aim for it. It is very strange that the Western governments have not really recognized this in terms of Muslims. And I agree that there is a level of blame to be put on Muslims, whether in Britain, whether in France, and whether in other countries. And also, we have also to blame big Islamic organizations that they have not worked hard to achieve this.
Is this because what you said before, they don't actually have a vision together?
Exactly. May Allah reward you. This is what we have discussed before, earlier, that this shows the importance of having a vision, because this is an opportunity that has been lost. We lost this opportunity. If Muslims work towards this from before, then we could have achieved it. And believe me, once we achieve it in one country, one European country, then it will be much easier for other European countries to achieve that. And at least once we achieve that, Muslims will be living in a situation maybe very similar to the situation Muslims living in India.
Okay, I think we can take a break and maybe come back to what we spoke about, educational needs for the Muslim minority groups. Okay, I'll leave you with a short break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Back to the Prophet. Join Sheikh Ammar in the program Back to the Prophet, wherein he teaches us practical lessons from the Prophet's life and how this can help us to overcome our challenges in the present.
We talk about the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, seeking guidance for ourselves. In the early days after the revelation of the Holy Quran, the Muslims were greatly persecuted, so much so that quite a few Muslims had to leave Arabia and migrate to Africa to live among Ahl Kitab, Christian people who followed the gospel of Christ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Living in the West. Sheikh, just before the break, you started going into a topic I think is a quite deep topic, but a very important topic. The implementation, really, of personal law, Islamic personal law, to be accepted by the West. Also, we're speaking about the Western governments, for them to accept part of it. I've got a question for you, and it's a bit of a cynical kind of question, but many people have this. They say, see, you said that some minorities are accepted, their personal law is accepted, parts of it. You said the Hindus, for example, and even the Jews. But see, they don't really have a law per se, but the Sharia is a complete law. Do you think they will really accept parts of this law to be implemented? Especially post 9/11 and 7/7 and all these things that have happened. There's a lot of talk, Sharia not good, it's causing problems, do you think they're going to accept it?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, we don't know whether they will accept it or not as a matter of something that is considered to be unseen. But we have to work towards it. And in terms of the facilities that we have, and in terms of the environment that we are living in, and in terms of the realities that we are living in, someone might say that they have to accept it, and they will accept it one day. And by the way, I have so many discussions with so many professors and doctors who visit Sharia Council. I'm part of Islamic Sharia Council in the UK.
Okay.
And we are dealing with Muslim personal law, mainly talaq, marriage, divorce, and so on. And many, believe me, many Western professors are interested in the work that we are doing, and interested in Sharia matters within Western environment or within Western countries. And they come to us and visit in order to inquire about our work and what do we aim for. And one of the professors, she was a lady, and she came from, I think she came from Switzerland. Yeah, she came from Switzerland. And I did ask her the same question. Do you believe that Sharia can be implemented? Sharia not in its totality.
Parts of it.
Parts of it, which is the Muslim personal law. And she said, I believe that it will. It will. It might take some time, and it might take a struggle there, because you have a long way to go, and you have to sacrifice a little bit, and you have to articulate your ideas. You have to convince the Muslim community, you have to convince the government, lobby the government, etc. So there is a long way. We cannot achieve it, of course, overnight, but we have no choice but to do it.
Okay.
Now, the government, why do we say that the government will accept it one time? See, the only thing that may hinder them from accepting it is once they turn to be another Serbian countries. Like the Serb, when they said to Bosnian Muslims, enough is enough, either our way or the highway. Either you accept our way or you leave. And even though they could not achieve what they want to achieve, because they cannot just abolish Muslims. It is true that maybe more than 500,000 Muslims were killed, but they could not achieve what they want to achieve. So it is a struggle. Only that situation may hinder them from accepting Sharia as such, as we said. Other than that, I think they will be forced to accept it. They might not like it, but they will be forced to accept it. Let us not think of Muslims and the West within the coming 5 years. Let us think about it within the 20 years. The coming 20 years, and this is an objective that need to be achieved within at least 10-20 years. It's not something to be achieved within 5 years.
Okay,
and just let me complete that. See, the point here, the point that we would like to make it clear is that we are not calling for Sharia in its totality to be implemented. We are calling for parts of Sharia, parts of actually Muslim personal law to be embedded within the judicial system, whether the British judicial system, the French judicial system, and so on and so forth. And as a stepping stone towards that, we are not asking it to be binding on every Muslim, but we are asking it to be binding on every Muslim who chooses to do so. So if, for example, if a Muslim claiming that he is a Muslim and he would like to go for Sharia in terms of his marriage and in terms of his divorce, inheritance law, etc., then it is up to him. These countries are secular countries. It is something between him and Allah Jalla wa Ala, and this is something serious. If he doesn't want to go for Sharia, because this might consider to be an act of kufr for him. But we leave that aside. What we are talking about is something that can be really embedded easily within the judicial system. Means the arbitration is supporting it, the idea of arbitration. I'm not saying that the arbitration is the only, but the philosophical background of arbitration is supporting it. The philosophical background of prenuptial agreements also is supporting it. Then we have also experienced within the Judaism and Sikhism and Hinduism that the governmental bodies partially recognize some of their needs. So if you put all these together and add to it the fact that the number of Muslims in the UK, in France, in all European countries is growing. Islam is the second religion in the whole of Europe. Now they said that there are 20 million Muslims living in Europe. And actually some people say no, the figure is far bigger than that. It reaches up to 30 millions. We don't have exact statistics. But the fact that Islam is growing, number of Muslims is growing. And also on the other hand, now they realizes that there is a need for the moral system because there is a moral decline within the Western societies. So they need faith, they need religion. There is a level of understanding now that faith can play a positive role. This is in general. So within all of these together, these are domestic factors that enable us to achieve what we want to achieve. Now there are some other external factors. The issue of globalization. The issue of globalization means that the whole world is becoming one small village. And you cannot disattach yourself as a country, as a governmental body from other systems. And you cannot disattach Muslims from their faith and from being easily, from accessing other avenues for themselves. So there is no choice but to go for that. Actually, there are some other people who went one step further, and they said that all countries, European countries, are moving towards federalism, where they allow within each country different parts to run their own systems. And they said that in Spain there is a strong tendency towards that. Now, maybe this is a very far step that we need to talk about. But the European countries have no choice but to go through that route. Similarly, we as Muslims living in the West have no choice but to go through that route and to achieve what we want to achieve.
Okay, but some of the skeptics, Sheikh, I mean, they will say that, hold on, you know, the Muslims have been living in the West for quite a long time. They've been getting their rights. They've been getting married, getting divorced, doing all their personal law. They really don't need to delve into the Sharia law. Do you think this is a valid statement?
No, that is invalid statement. That is an invalid statement. It is not true. First of all, we have to admit that Muslims now, whether living in the UK or whether living in France or other parts of Europe, they are different from Muslims 20 years ago or from Muslims 50 years ago. For example, Muslims in the UK, take the UK. Muslims now in the UK are totally different from their parents. They speak the language better, they understand the culture better, they understand the system in a better way, and so on and so forth. And now they are demanding for these things unlike their parents. Maybe their parents, they were not much worried about marriage to be fully recognized, and because they had some avenues. But now the young generations are demanding for something better, and they should demand for an official recognition. So this is not enough. And also, as I'm telling you, from Islamic Sharia point of view, and I mean the organizational point of view, the organization that I work for, that we are having an increase in terms of the demand.
Inundated, basically. It's increasing all the time.
Yeah, it is increasing all of the time. And it is unlike before. And now many Muslims are coming with their problems, and they are saying that, okay, why don't we go to the court to deal with our problems? Why don't we have a system where your decision as Islamic Sharia Council is binding upon the court and binding upon other Muslims? So the matter is different, and we cannot say that, well, Muslims have been living and have been running their matters without this being officially recognized.
Okay, well, that's a good point for us to stop, but I think we're going to have to look a bit closely into this in the next program. Jazakallah khair. Well, hope you're taking notes and taking a lot of information. Very interesting topic. Until next time, I'll leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.